Okay, thank you very much, Tim Kennedy, for agreeing to this interview today. And today we will be discussing the work that you've done with your photos and the projects you did for the Trinity Cafe. So why don't you just start by telling me a little bit about the work that you did with the Trinity Cafe?
Okay, well, it's interesting because in this very office, I was just sitting here checking my email, and my next door neighbor, my colleague and friend, Dr. Tripp, Stephanie Tripp, she came in and said that there was an organization that she had been involved with, and that they were having their first serious fundraiser. And it was called Trinity Cafe, and it was, I think, they were celebrating their 1,000,000th meal. And that they thought that that would be a nice way to use that theme of 1,000,000 meals for their first fundraiser. And they were looking for time of the year to do it and a place to have it and stuff. And anyway, she said, much to my surprise, she said, and they need somebody to take portraits. So they wanted 20 to 24 people, and I'm recommending you. And it just came right out of nowhere. And I said, gee, well, God, I didn't know for sure. I said, well, I just thought, well, I'll go over like on a Sunday morning and just check it out and see what the possibilities are and stuff. And anyway, so I went over there just to see, and then a woman named Wendy Malloy coordinates the Sunday morning breakfast. She works at Dun & Bradstreet, and she was very, very a nice person to meet and everything. And so I watched the whole thing. I just sat there and watched the whole thing get set up. People waiting in line. It started at 9 a.m. And here's this brand new building. It was about a year old. Stainless steel kitchen. I find out they have a chef who's originally from Austria, I guess, or something, and he's retired, and he's been there for the whole time frame. It's just this marvelous chef that they have who dedicates his time and everything. And there's a couple hundred people at least waiting in line to get in.
Wow.
And then they would set it up. They showed me how they had their tables set up.
This is at 9 o'clock in the morning?
It started at 9.
And there was already that many people there?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
They had to wait, some of them waiting for a while. And but the thing that was interesting to me, I expected a cafeteria line where they're all lined up with their trays and stuff, but they actually get served at a sit-down table.
Oh wow.
And that each table was fairly large, and they had about a half an inch or maybe 5/8 of an inch of glass covering over each one of them. And then one of the seats was for either a visitor or one of the servers to sit down and talk with them. And so it was, one person would go in, and then when they ate, they would leave, and then the server would say, okay, I can take one more on table 7 or whatever.
Wow.
And if there's a couple, they would watch out and say, okay, we can take 2, or if they have a couple of kids with them. It was like a military drill, the way it was.
Wow.
So well organized. And the food looked terrific. I mean, serious amount of food, and it looked very appetizing. And then they had things like apples and bananas they could take with them,
Wow.
and I was just very impressed. And then, so talking to Wendy, and then she said, well, there's certain people that I can recommend that I think would be willing, to, talk and have a portrait and all this kind of stuff. And then I'll copy down a statement that they can make, and then we'll have them sign a release and all that, kind of thing. So, So I said, okay. And then I came back the next Sunday and started the very first portraits.
Wow.
And I just used a diffuser because they didn't have many windows at all. They had these kind of glass cubes that were high up on the wall, and so they had a stage there. So I just had somebody stand and then Stephen Crompton from my colleague here, he came with me the first couple of times, and he held a diffuser, and then I had Wendy Malloy when everybody was through eating. Then certain people that agreed to have their picture taken would wait. And then I had her just using the reflector. So we had the key light, and then we had the reflector for just opening up, a little bit more of a softer light and stuff. And so I just thought, well, I just practice it because I don't want to use artificial lighting and intimidate people. So it was just them eating there, being in their normal situation, their normal room, with their their situation, and then they just had to wait just a few more minutes to then come and sit down with me. And I set up a chair right there, right next to where they might have been eating, 15 minutes earlier. And then, just talk, introduce myself, and like that, and then just took a few shots. And,
very cool.
And then a couple of them had to be done over again, like this one here. Just awkward, different things going on with 3 people. And then I had to do the second one of the cooks. Yeah, the other thing was interesting is that some of these people were homeless, but this woman here, Carmen here, this woman here, this gentleman here, and then they are now servers, paying back.
Wow.
Because they've gotten things together.
That's awesome.
And then he is now working in the kitchen, this gentleman here.
And are all the employees who are working there all volunteer based?
They're all all the people there. When I was there, I don't know. I think the cook is paid.
Wow.
But
everybody
all the
else
rest
is
of them are volunteers that I know of. There are very few paid roles in the whole thing. And it's just interesting to me that it's actually started by a gentleman who. See, where did I put the? Yeah, this is the program from the fundraiser. But Jeff Derry, who has the advertising firm, Marketing Associates USA, a very serious clients, it's a successful operation. Okay? He started this. Okay, and just from the story they were telling me is that a pastor or somebody giving a sermon at this church they belong to, so it kind of challenged the congregation to get more involved in the community and walk their talk and not just have nice things to say, and but to actually act on it. And that's what led to him then to go into other big places. And like the woman who was the director there at the time, who was just an amazing person. I just really got to love her. Just trying to think of her title, if I have a title for her. She was just the event chair, Cindy Davis. Mm-hmm. But she was also kind of the director of the whole Trinity Cafe.
Right.
Just an amazing leader with the kindest heart, just the way watching her in action was so wonderful.
Wow.
It's very inspirational. So I just got connected, and then every week I went there for months. Every Sunday. I never knew if anybody was going to line up or not. In the meantime, I stayed for the whole time there. And just see the similar people coming every week, and I was starting actually to get to know people. Or if somebody needed a salt shaker or something, I'd go get it for them, or sitting down talking to some people and stuff. It just got more and more impressive the longer I was there. And then I shot everything on a Canon 5D Mark II, okay, with a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. And then Stephen Crompton became a key person because he's got a really nice setup there with Photoshop and Lightroom and everything, and a much better thing than I have with my laptop, to convert everything to black and white. They wanted black and white portraits, which is my background anyway. There's my tribute to John Lee Hooker. I have an exhibit in the book, and so I appreciated that because I thought the black and white was a better format to begin with. But with a camera like I have, you shoot in color and then you convert to black and white. So he helped me do that. So he worked with me through all 24 portraits. And then other people came up who weren't going to be involved in this, and so I took pictures of them, and and everybody gets promised their own personal portrait. I made sure everybody understood that. At least the ones of the 24 here. So.
Right.
And anyway, just got more and more interested. Everybody had a story, and then you'd have something like this. This woman here was a real street person here. She looks like she's in her 80s, and then her statement was just one short statement: "My name means queen."
Wow.
And it was just like, you could just feel people get them, she's just trying to get some sense of pride in herself, and then so many of the other people, this one person here, he had second thoughts about his statement. So when you're going around at the fundraiser looking at these different statements, there's like somebody who doesn't want to give a statement. And so that was even more powerful.
Apprehensive?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, in other words, God only knows what his story is.
Yeah.
Because these other guys who were willing to tell their story, kind of a simple version of it, spent most of their life in prison for kidnapping, were beat up by fellow prisoners, and were blind. He was blind. And then this other guy, he said, I couldn't exist without so-and-so. So this other guy who was homeless takes care of him.
That's crazy.
And you sit there and go, oh my God, there but for the grace of God, go, it just becomes overwhelming,
It is.
And so, it just helps you keep everything in perspective, And that a number of people are able to get into little rental places and stuff that can kind of function by not sleeping on the street anymore. So there's all these people at different stages that are there too. And some of them, like this guy here that I said, he looked like an Aztec prince. He was a PhD candidate at USF in urban planning.
Wow.
And then drugs are a lot of the problem for people. They get into drugs. This other person is recognized. This, you see what he has here. This is a very unusual double size of his forehead. He's a genius.
Wow.
And he got into drugs, and he was just crawling out of a hole, a hole in his life. And he was like the host of the whole place. I could see he was welcoming everybody. He was going around like he was like the head of the thing or something.
Wow.
Welcoming people, come on in, and helping them sit down and stuff like that. And had little cards, thank you cards for people.
Oh my gosh.
Stuff like this to the cook and stuff. So there's all of these different people there. And then this gentleman here and this woman, they can't afford to get married, but you said she's my best friend.
Oh wow.
And then you see a lot of them, they have closed mouths, kind of thing like that, because they have bad teeth.
Right.
So very self-conscious about how they look and stuff like this. And anyway, it was just one person after another. Like this guy, I said, looked like a young Clint Eastwood or whatever. I think he was a construction worker that was between jobs and something like that. But
So everybody's story is so different.
Yeah, and this guy here, he only has one leg, and he had been really rough, mean to Wendy a week earlier, and he just was like the personality plus with me. And he was doing extra things like this, shots
like
this and stuff like that. He couldn't get enough of it.
He liked it?
Yeah, he couldn't get enough of it. And then this gentleman here, who looked like a real sad person to me, and then I was told he really has a tough time because he can't walk very well and stuff. And he was also a heavy construction guy.
Wow.
And I told him he was going to get a picture of himself, a portrait, 8 by 10. And I could see him get really emotional because he said he doesn't talk much at all. And he goes, I'm going to give that to my sister. She's the only family I've got.
Wow.
And then, some of them don't bathe. You can see that they've got really soiled underwear and stuff. You can smell them a mile away and stuff.
Right.
And
so they're living in really rough conditions.
They're coming right out of the swamp almost.
Yeah.
And then other people, you see, geez, they just like the USF.
So some are definitely worse off than others.
So, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was what was interesting to me. It wasn't just a real one type.
Right.
It was an incredible mix of people.
There's all different scales.
All different reasons why they're there.
Wow.
And all different stories. And the humanity just emerged. Like he just came from California trying to help his son out, who got in some kind of trouble, and he was actually a successful guy somewhat, but he doesn't have a job here.
Wow.
And he doesn't want to leave his son who still needs him and stuff. So a free meal is important to him.
Exactly.
But he'll eventually go back to California, hopefully, and hopefully that he didn't lose his job or whatever. So he's a totally different kind of character. He was a very kind of a hip, trendy looking guy.
Yeah.
You can see by his hair and everything.
Definitely.
He was very, very like a cool guy. But he's just here because something happened to his friend. I mean, his son.
Wow.
Who he loves, and he came from California. And then I got 2 pictures of her. One she's smiling, and this one here. And then this is the one that everybody preferred. And that's all we found out later on. It's the one she preferred. And she looks like 2 different people.
Really?
She looks like 2 completely different people.
Wow.
And so I think what made it work, though, is I didn't make a big deal out of it. And it was right in the environment that they're normally used to. And the woman who was setting it up, and they trust. And then I could see that I was connected to her. She was bringing me there.
Exactly.
Working with me on it. That's why I had her hold the reflector, so she was involved in it.
Right.
And boy, that was critical.
So that made it easier, and they were more willing to open up to you.
Yeah, and then I wasn't running around trying to get a statement from them.
Right.
She's somebody that they've seen for month after month after month, who they trust and they know. And so, you know, they just, I thought what they said was very poignant because of that. And the combination of her, what she